Dude. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I don't like that they're smiling because we're gonna start with the NFC East. I feel like starting with the NFC East is like a double-edged sword for me. It's it's great for you, but it's a double-edged sword for me because on one hand, I'm like, yeah, great, the Eagles lost. On the other hand, I'm absolutely devastated. I mean, talk about devastation. So, first things first, welcome back. The NFC East in the wild card absolutely imploded. And on itself, I dude, I feel like the Cowboys were more like sudden, it was just like, I felt like had this bubble and all of a sudden just one game it all just kind of caved in on itself. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong, right? It's Murphy's law with that game. When it comes to the Eagles, I feel like it was more like we saw it coming and it was very much like, oh, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening. Oh, it's not stopping. There's no air coming up in this balloon. It's still deflating. There's no air in this thing. I do want to start with the Cowboys. Might as well just get it out of the way, right? Ruin my mood for the whole podcast, right? At the hands of the Green Bay Packers, the Cowboys were handed a embarrassing loss, 48-32. And again, everything that could go wrong did go wrong in this game. When we talked about last week the predictions for this game, I said I thought the only thing or the only reason we would lose this game was because of Mike McCarthy. And I mean, I got like part of that, right? Part of that was Mike McCarthy, but then the other hand of it was also unexpectedly Dan Quinn. And then on the other hand of it was Dak and CD and the whole team in general. I think that the most disappointing thing about this loss is the guys who carried our team the entire year. I would say after the Niners game, after we got blown out by the Niners. After the Niners game, the guys who carried us the entire way failed us. Dak and CD failed this offense, and that's who carries this offense. They kind of put patches and Band-Aids in places that need those patches and Band-Aids, and they failed us there. And Mike McCarthy, I don't even know where to start with that one. When it comes to the running and the run game, what did I tell you last week? Hey, it's not we're going to run the ball so we can pass. It's we're going to pass the ball so we can run. And he did exactly that. He ran the ball so we could pass, except it didn't work. That's kind of the issue that I thought was going to happen, and it did. He kind of reverted to this weird, I'm going to run the ball first. I'm not going to let Dak sling it. And when he did, again, CD and Dak were not on the same page. And when it comes to Dan Quinn, disappointing. We had 6 DBs on the field for all but 10 defensive snaps while getting killed by Aaron Jones and the run. I don't know what the thinking is. There's no halftime adjustment. You and I were texting it, during the game, and you said, well, if you guys just score coming out of half, it's 28-14, and you're right back in it. And we go for the field goal, right? And it's just disappointing, dude. And it's so heartbreaking, right? I would say this was devastation. I, for a decade now, can remember vividly Cowboys seasons, playoff losses vividly, very vividly. So for a decade, I remember this stuff. 2014 was the Dez catch, no catch against the Packers. Then no playoffs in 2016, playoffs in 2017 against the Packers, and Aaron Rodgers hands us another devastating loss. And then we faced the Rams a couple years later, another loss. Decimated loss. And then we face you guys 2 years in a row, and it's just embarrassing devastation. And this is just no exception. I mean, the differences between all those other teams is this team was supposed to win. The Packers are not supposed to win this game, and they did. And that's what's disappointing for me about this game. Don't just smile, please. I feel like you're soaking it in a little bit too much.
I said that we would go into halftime of this game like, oh, what's going on with the Cowboys? This game is close. What's happening? And then you guys would come out and turn it on.
Right.
Going into the fourth quarter, Dak had like 190 yards. So I don't want to hear about the 400 yards passing. I don't want to hear about the 39 first downs. It was all garbage that got put up in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately,
Absolutely.
when a team looks really bad, everything looks really bad. The defense looked bad. The offense looked bad. Dak looked bad. I think the underlining
Yeah.
tone to this is Dan Quinn and the fact that his defense doesn't do well against the Shanahan type offenses. If you look at your losses this year to the 49ers, the Dolphins, the Packers, those are all the Shanahan disciple offenses. And when I say that stuff, I'm
Hmm.
talking Mike Shanahan. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan's our head coach, but that's where it all started. Um, Dak with two terrible interceptions really widened. I mean, one was a really good play. The other one, Savage pulls off a route and takes it to the house. Um, but I wonder because when I was watching it, I think I sent you a Snapchat after the first pick, and I was like, "Here we go. This is the
Yeah.
Cowboys. This is what they do in the playoffs." And I feel like you cannot avoid that as a player, also. And
Hmm.
I'm looking at this team and I'm just wondering to myself, like, are they going to fight for it? Like, if they come out of
Yeah.
halftime, if they score, like, Dak has already had his meltdown. He's probably going to play pretty good at this point. But then you come out of halftime, you go for that field goal, and I'm like, nah, it's a wrap. And then what was
Yeah.
honestly surprising is the Packers just kept putting it on. They ran that leak play that Kyle's made famous, where Musgrave was wide open,
Yeah.
on the tight end leak out play, and um, the thing about the Packers offense and why they're dangerous is they don't have a CD Lamb. They just have a bunch of guys that have each gone for 100 yards the past couple of weeks. A different
Yeah.
person. Aaron Jones was running like a wild man. There was a lot to that. I can't say that I'm all too surprised that the Cowboys imploded because I feel like I've watched that for a couple of years now. Obviously, I didn't expect it to happen to the Packers, but it does make me
Yeah.
wonder. It does make me wonder how the Cowboys this offseason reload and come back when you're bringing back your head coach that's been reported. You're
Yeah.
going to have to sign Dak to an extension because his cap hit is $59.8 million this year. So you have to sign him to an extension just to lower that cap hit. So you're going to retool. Um, I think you can upgrade off of Pollard. I think you can upgrade at your third wide receiver spot. But
Yeah.
besides that, I don't know what you guys do in this offseason to feel better about next year after losing this game. Because to me, this is like do we blow this whole thing up? Do we tear it all down? And I wonder if you have a legacy of an owner that knows he's in the twilight of his ownership and he doesn't want to tear it down and he's just going to
Yeah.
retool and keep going for it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's 20 franchises in the NFL that would sell their soul to win 12 games a year and have home playoff games. But when you're talking about a
Right.
legacy franchise like the Dallas Cowboys, getting bounced in the first round at home just isn't nearly good enough.
And that's what I want to talk about with every single one of these teams that lost in the wild card is where they just lightly, not super heavy. We will talk heavily in the offseason about where do you go from here for most of all the teams. And I do want to talk about where do you go from here for these losses for these wild card teams. And starting off with the Cowboys, like you said, Mike McCarthy already being reported coming back. You're basing it off of regular season success, and it's really heartbreaking and it's really disappointing at this point. And I don't really know what to do. The regular season success is super cool, but over these 6-7 weeks during this podcast, I've told you, even when we're doing the contenders versus pretender stuff, it's really hard to believe in a team that can't win big games. And it just kind of translated over to the offseason, or excuse me, the playoffs. But like you said, I just didn't expect to happen against the Packers. Maybe in the divisional, but I wasn't expecting a Super Bowl, but I wasn't expecting to lose against the Packers. Dan Quinn is potentially out the door. It is being reported that if he doesn't get a head coaching job somewhere, he will come back. Dan Quinn is coached great. I think it's one game, in my opinion. I have a hard time rooting against Dan Quinn for the one game. I do just think that's what's really disappointing is it wasn't expected from Dan Quinn. Mike McCarthy, sure. Dan Quinn, not so much, not with this defense. I think what we're really missing is like a big bruiser in our linebacker spot. We're missing that. Leighton Vander Esch is being missed right now, and we drafted a linebacker in the third round, and he ended up getting injured all year, and he didn't play, and he was supposed to fill in pretty big gaps this year, and that didn't happen. We do have a lot of free agents as well. So we have Tony Pollard, who played on the franchise tag, Stephon Gilmore. We have Dorrance Armstrong, who's a rotation edge rusher, Tyron Smith, starting left tackle, Tyler Biotis, who is our starting center, Jaron Kearse, who at this point I think can go. Jordan Lewis, who is a starting slot corner, Dante Fowler, who kind of came on really well at the end of the season, Jonathan Hankins, who's our run stuffer. He was hurt at the end of the season. And then CJ Goodwin, who's just our basically special teams guy. So we have a lot of big, really important pieces, right? And then on top of that, money's going to be tight due to extensions / deals for Dak, CD, and Micah all coming up really, really soon. So it's really hard to kind of see where this team goes from here. We have the 24th pick in the draft, which has been really nice to us. We've drafted guys like Des Bryant, Calvin Hill, and then Tyler Smith, but it hasn't translated to playoff wins and Super Bowl appearances. So I don't really know where we go from here. There's a lot to do and not a lot to say. We're not going to go pick up a big free agent. We're going to focus on ourselves. We might get like cream of the crop of like third tier guys, but we're not going to go after anyone big this offseason. That's where I kind of stand with that.
You don't think you can make a run at Mike Evans?
I don't think we will. We're tied to everybody, dude. And the thing is, when you're tied to everyone, it never happens, right? True. I follow Celtics a couple of I follow a couple of Cowboys pages on Instagram, Laws Nation and Defy Talks Cowboys, and they're kind of like in the know with a lot of rumors and what's going on in the mill and talks, and it always pops up. We're in trade talks, or we're in the trade talks for this, or we're in contracts talks with anybody, bro. Anyone and everyone, right? Most recently, Dalvin Cook, right? Where's he go? He goes to the Ravens, and he's being activated off the practice squad now, and he's going to play. So it doesn't happen for us. We don't go after it. We make an evaluation according to Jerry Jones, and we like our guys. That's the same stuff you hear every day from that goddamn radio show he doesn't know how to shut up about, like he's the goddamn coach. We hear it every time. It's the same thing. That's kind of the issue.
Jerry Jones's mindset on the Cowboys is just like a certain family members of ours mindset on the Cowboys. It's just everything they got is the greatest. And, I got to tell you, one thing that I have, I'm going to put a baby red flag on. And for those of you that have been listening for a while, I like to red flag things. Your boy on the defensive side that's going to get the biggest defensive contract in the history of the NFL, he sure likes to disappear when the lights are bright. That dude's got 1 sack in 4 playoff games, did nothing in all your big losses this year. Now, I know the thing about Micah is you run at him, but you're going to hand that guy $200 million, and I know he's flashy and all this other stuff, but, man, I just wonder, it would never happen in a million years, but you're going to bring Dak back. That's what Jerry's going to do. You have to bring back CeeDee Lamb because he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver moving forward for the next 5 to 6 years in his prime.
I want to add a little bit more on that baby flag. I'm going to add like another baby flag, maybe even just let's combine them to a small flag. Micah Parsons is repeatedly now talked about that he wants to play for Dan Quinn. End of story. That's where he wants to play for. If he wants to go after Dan Quinn leaves, if he leaves to a place like Seattle, which is the top landing spot right now, we might not see Micah with the star on his helmet, which he wants to be a Cowboy, right? We saw his emotional stuff after, draft night. He wants to be there. But if he really loves Dan Quinn and that's who he wants to play for, and he don't want to play for the Cowboys, he just won't sign. That's the thing. So again, I want to stack on top of that one with another flag. Let's combine them. So that's kind of my issue.
I mean, I think all your legit defenses in the league have a highly paid edge rusher. Obviously, we have one. I guess the Ravens don't really have one, although they've resurrected Jadeveon Clowney this year. But it's just one of those things with Micah, man. I would love to see him show up a little bit more. And the thing about it is, I mean, I know it's hard for him to show up when he's getting put in a chokehold every play. Trust me, Nick Bosa's the same way. But there's just certain players. Aaron Donald carried the Rams to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Every single one of their wins in the NFC came on him sacking the quarterback or, ripping the quarterback's arm out of his socket at the end of the game. He carried them to the Super Bowl.
For sure.
Dominant defensive players pop no matter what scheme is ran at them. And little baby red flag on him and his production in big games.
For sure. Now let's move to the other side of the NFC, who had more of a gradual implosion, like we said. It's really difficult to recall a more rapid fall from grace than what's gone down with the Philadelphia Eagles over the past like 2 months. It's really hard to recall. Okay. From the 10-1 start, the Eagles came undone and they basically, limped, crawled, had half their body chopped off into the wild card, right?
Yeah,
Dropping 5 of
but
the last 6 games.
if you pause that right there, man, let's just take that 10-1 record and realize that it
Mm-hmm.
very easily could have been 6-5.
Yeah.
So they won a lot of close games right there, on an offensive philosophy of Jalen's just going to run around and huck it deep and hope for pass interference and hope for AJ Brown to do great things. Um, I'm sure you had somewhere you were going with that. I apologize for cutting you off,
No,
but
you're good.
Jalen looked amazing last year under Steichen.
Yeah, no,
Gardner
absolutely.
Minshew looked amazing last year under Steichen, but Jalen this year looks like that dude from Oklahoma. He looks like the dude that Nick Saban said, "Peace, you got to go." And I'd be freaking the hell out if I was the Eagles. If you're bringing back Sirianni, who's coming? What top flight offensive coordinator are you bringing in to fix Jalen Hurts when you know Sirianni's, bro? You got the hottest ass seat in the NFL right now, except for maybe McCarthy. You got the hottest, or Tomlin. You got the hottest hot seat. What offensive coordinator is going to sign up to come try to fix that project? I don't know. I mean, if I was the Eagles, I might look to see Jalen Hurts' cap hit is very, very low the next couple of years because they did that cap wizardry stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. That dude might not be the answer.
And I think it's, man, dude, I love it. I really do. Because obviously, again, I'm a Cowboys fan. So I love seeing this implosion. If I'm going to lose, I better see the goddamn Eagles lose too, right? And the next person up is the goddamn Niners. I better see both them lose. Okay. So one down, one to go. But I think it's awesome because I don't like Nick Sirianni at all. So the fact that he goes and after he beats the Chiefs and he goes, screams, Chiefs fans, I don't want to hear nothing. And then goes 2-6 for the next 8 games. Really? You
Yeah,
Chiefs fans, I don't want to hear nothing. And you go 2-6? Bro, that's crazy. And then you get dog walked 32-9 in the wild card against the Bucks? I don't want to hear
yeah,
that.
and let's be honest. The Packers are here to stay. That's the youngest
Oh yeah.
offense in the league right now. Jordan Love's a baller. Aaron Jones is a baller. They got a ton of young pieces.
Yeah.
Maybe it was surprising what happened to the Cowboys, but the Packers are going to be around. The Bucks are not. That team is aging. They don't
Yeah.
belong in the playoffs. Baker's had
They
a
weren't
good
expected to
year,
be in the
I
playoffs.
guess.
Yeah.
But you beat the Eagles. The Eagles can't tackle. They can't.
Block.
What the hell? And you guys are down. The game got away from you guys. There was really nothing you could do. But it's 16-7. Run the fucking football, Sirianni. Like, what are we doing? You're down 7. You're playing like you're down. My phone thinks I'm saying Siri, not Sirianni. You're down 7. Like, DeAndre Swift has been a revelation for you guys this year. Run the football. Right? To me, I don't know why they're bringing him back. I think that's outrageous that they're bringing him back. And I think that, the Eagles better be careful because the Giants are a joke. The Eagles are turning into a joke. But I tell you what, you better watch out for Washington with that new owner. They just hired Adam Peters. They're interviewing all the top guys for their head coaching job. The Eagles better watch out. They might find themselves in the 3rd seed or 4th spot in that division next year.
I think what the most dangerous thing too is Sirianni is he's the player's coach, right? That's the type of coach he is. And then the fact that your team looks unprepared, unmotivated, and uninterested in even playing the game.
Right.
And the fact that the culmination of the entire thing comes back to a tush push, your guaranteed play, and you fail, you get stuffed at the goal line is something
that was so fitting.
Just poetic, right? It's something that had to happen. It just says a lot, right? I mean, they're the only second, I don't know if you realize, second team after a 10-1 start to fail to win 12 games. 1986 New York Jets were the last team to do that. But even the 1986 New York Jets won a playoff game. The Eagles,
without a quarterback injury. Nobody got hurt. I mean, I know AJ was limping around and everything, and Devontae's a stud, by the way. He's a war daddy. He came out and was doing everything he could in that game. But your quarterback doesn't get hurt, and then Jalen's just like hey, what do you think about Sirianni? Oh, I haven't heard anything about that. Why would he be? Why do you think you
Yeah.
guys were 10-1 and the 49ers took your soul, exposed you to the rest of the league, and now you guys are in Cancun?
Hmm. Yeah.
I can't
No,
believe they brought
absolutely.
that. I can't believe they brought that dude back. It's mind boggling to me with all the coaching talent that's out there right now that you're running it back with that guy who in 2 of the 3 seasons you've had to strip somebody of play calling duties because they weren't getting the job done. I just
Yep.
who's coming to that job? That's another thing. Sirianni's on the hot seat, so nobody's coming. Who's coming to that job knowing 2 or 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season they might be fired or play calling duties might be stripped from them because things aren't
Yep.
going right.
Yeah, the question is where do you go from here, right? Especially with the coaching, but not only that, they're currently projected with the 22nd pick in the draft. They have a couple of major free agents, starting
700
linebacker
free agents, yeah.
Zach Cunningham is going to be a free agent. Jason Kelsey is maybe retiring, probably retiring at this point. Shaq Leonard, who they were acquired through trade late in the season, he is going to be a free agent. Braden Mann, who is their punter, is going to be free agent. DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny, both running backs, running back 1 and 2, are also going to be free agents. So that's not just it, but that's just the major ones that come to mind.
Well,
There's a lot
and
there.
the rest of the guys that are under contract are old. You
Yeah.
saw their secondary, James Bradbury, the dude they traded for from
Cooked.
Tennessee. Like it's just old. You guys can't
Mm-hmm.
to the Bucks. Like Mike Evans is a stud. I love Mike Evans, but to the Bucks, like you got boat raced by the Bucks, and
Even guys
I'm
who aren't old and are studs, they don't want to play. Like AJ Brown doesn't care anymore, and you delete all of your goddamn Instagram posts about the Eagles. You just don't care. He doesn't care about the Eagles anymore at this point. He's Hurts is he's Jalen Hurts' best friend. He don't even care though at this point. He don't want to play for Sirianni at this point. I would get tired of getting yelled at every single time we're down and act like it's all my goddamn fault. I'm the stud. You're not throwing it to me. Why is it all my fault?
And you know what? I thought about putting a little thumb over my camera here. And when the podcast started and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we went live, I was going to be wearing a Packers hat. I thought it was going to be pretty funny. But then I was like, you know what? The 49ers play the Packers this week. I'm not doing the podcast with them wearing a Packers hat and then have something catastrophic happen and us lose to them also. I'm not going to do it. So I was thinking about being a little reserved, more of my
Right.
takes on this. But I'm like, you know what? Screw that. The Bucks boat raced your ass. That's embarrassing. You should not have a job anymore. And I don't listen. I don't want to see anyone get fired, but he makes like 12 million a year. He'll be fine if he gets fired. I
Yeah.
just not the losses. I can't say are surprising because we saw it coming.
Yeah.
But to then run it back with him, and you're going to run it back with Jalen and this old ass defense, and the only thing they got going
Yeah.
for them is that their security guard is now famous. That's the only thing Philadelphia has going for them.
Right.
And the fact that
Yeah.
the 76ers might win the NBA championship and only like 500,000 people will watch that because nobody watches the NBA anymore.
Well, outside of the untrue things like Sixers winning the championship, I think you're right. Moving off of
Go
the
Boston.
NFC East, let's move on to the NFC East, specifically the Rams. I mean, you chose the Rams to win. I chose the Lions to win in a very close game, just by a sliver. And that's kind of just what happened. A couple calls here and there, a couple plays here and there is kind of what it ended up kind of going to. I think the Rams are a couple of pieces away from being a legit contender, and they should have some high hopes for next year. Matthew Stafford is clearly still good enough to win a Super Bowl. Kyron Williams is a stud. Puka Nacua is a bona fide number 1. Aaron Donald will probably be back for another season, which helps young stars like Kobe Turner, their defensive tackle. The Rams have a first-round pick. Everybody who is a Rams fan should be rejoicing. I don't even remember the last time the Rams had a first-round pick. They have $41.5 million in cap space. They do have a couple of pieces they need: an edge rusher to replace Jonah Williams, 2 corners because the starters just ain't doing it. They're ranked like 20th in pass defense. And then another receiver and running back just in case an injury. Right? Kyron Williams and Cooper Kupp missed time. I think getting those backups there kind of solidifies that there. But again, edge rushers, a couple of corners. I think they're really close. I think they're really close to being a legit contender. And it makes last year look like a stumble more than a rebuild. And I think that's pretty impressive, and you can give a ton of credit to the coach on that one too.
Hey, listen, I've told you a million times, I've told other people a million times, when it comes down to the players on the field, I'm a big believer in the coach. And Sean McVay is a baller. And
Absolutely.
that's why these teams that aren't that, if they had won and gone to the second round of the playoffs and maybe won another playoff game, it might have been one of the best coaching jobs we've seen in the NFL in a long time, because they were really hurt. They're missing pieces. But anytime you have a bona fide star as your head coach and a bona fide Hall of Fame talent as your quarterback, they're always going to be a threat. They got to upgrade a couple things defensively and try to find
Yeah.
another option on offense, just because I don't think at this point in his career you can trust that Cooper Kupp is going to play all
Yeah.
16. But
Yeah.
that's the thing about a team when you have a bona fide head coach is the team will outperform expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw a couple losses this past weekend where teams underperformed, and I blame that on coaching. When your team's not
Yeah.
ready to go, I blame the coaching.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's impressive, right? And we talked about it when we talked about our awards video, which if you're on YouTube, go check out the awards video, our predictions and our picks for the 2023-2024 award winners. We talked about the coach of the year, and Sean McVay was somebody that you brought up, I believe. And it's just, again, it's impressive. It makes last year, what were they won what, 3 games, 4 games? It makes it look like a stumble. Oh, whoops, accident. Sorry, didn't mean for that to happen. We'll be back. Don't worry about it. And I think they really started to find their footing kind of in that end of the season run. And unfortunately, it didn't end the way they wanted to. They were up against a team that maybe wanted it just a little bit more, like this much more, barely. I certainly don't think they got out coached. I think that's the last thing. Players left it all on the field and the better team won. I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And next year, they're going to be in the playoffs. I think they're going to be a 10, maybe even an 11 win team next year.
The one thing about Sean McVay, I will say, is they probably take that game home if he was better with his timeouts.
Time
And
management. Yeah.
his late game time management has definitely been. If
Yeah.
you're gonna put a black eye on Sean McVay's coaching
Yep.
career this so far into his career, it would be his time management. But there's an interesting thing that happens with head coaches. We can sit here and bash. I'll gladly do it. Bash Mike McCarthy to the end of this podcast. But you know what
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy can say? Hi, I'm Mike McCarthy, Super Bowl winning head coach. Sean
Yeah.
McVay can say, "Hi, I'm Sean McVay, Super Bowl winning head coach." And when you win a Super Bowl in the NFL, you forever will be known as Super Bowl winning head coach, and you gain equity. And that's the thing, is that he needs to the time clock management. I think if he had his timeouts, he'd have won that game. Obviously, the way he had to do the 2-minute warning, he basically forced Dan Campbell to pass on that third down, and credit to Dan Campbell for doing what was right. They passed, they won the game. So,
Yeah.
if you have a couple timeouts there and you're able to strategize it a little differently, maybe it ends differently. But the reason why I picked the Rams is because they scared me to death. So I'm glad that they got sent home. So
Yeah. There is only the only people to win a Super Bowl right now as active head coaches: Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, Mike McCarthy, Sean Payton, Doug Peterson, and Sean McVay are the only. And then Andy Reid are the only ones that have actually won a Super Bowl that are currently active head coaches. Just to put it in perspective, the limited amount of head coaches today, still active today, that have a Super Bowl.
And the next Atlanta Falcons head coach, obviously.
Who's that?
Bill Belichick.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Well, I mean, is he
he's
active?
technically
Is he not active?
Yeah. He's not active for about the next week or so.
Right.
That dude's already signed his contract, I promise you, just like Harbaugh's already signed his with the Chargers, and they're just kind of waiting, going through the motions, et cetera, et cetera. I have to firmly believe that Jerry Jones made a phone call and Bill's like, "Hey, I'm already," you know what I mean? Like, honestly, I still think Vrabel would have been an upgrade, but
I don't know, man. Do we really think that Jerry Jones actually made a phone call, or did he look at his guys and he liked his guys and he moved on with his life? That's personally what I see. I don't I don't really see that a lot with Jerry Jones. I don't see him reaching out to these guys. Free agents, coaching, all that stuff. I don't see him wanting somebody else. I think he's scared of change almost. That's kind of like what it is. He's scared of change. He doesn't want to make the change. And I get it. You don't want to make the knee-jerk reaction immediately firing your head coach, because that does nothing for the coach, the team, or the players at all.
You
And it
know what
ruins
I
players'
think?
developments.
And I could be, this is an outsider looking in, but you know what? Three of your big time head coaching guys out there right now, Belichick, Harbaugh, and Vrabel. Vrabel left because he wasn't happy with the infrastructure in
Yeah.
Tennessee. And
Yeah.
Jerry Jones ain't giving up any of his power to those three guys. And he's got another. Your guys is Jason Garrett for years and years and years. Everybody was like, oh, he's just Jerry's puppet. That's why Jerry likes him.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's some truth to Jerry liking the quarterback or the head coach that he can control. Maybe there's not. There's no guarantee that you hire 72-year-old Bill Belichick and he comes in and wins you a Super Bowl either, because he's old as
Yeah.
hell and we
No,
don't
for
know how
sure.
many more years he has. So,
Yep. Now, moving on to our AFC side. Right? Yeah. Because, we talked about all the NFC. Let's move on to the AFC. So, moving on, let's talk about the Browns. So, the Browns are, they lost to the Houston Texans, and we both chose the Browns to win this game, I believe, right? You did too? Yeah, we both did. I did horrible with my predictions. I'm putting it out there right now. I'm not even going to let anyone call me out if they're going to like look back at it and then be like, hey, I watched your video. You suck. Yeah, no, I totally sucked with those predictions. But Browns lost to the Texans, which congratulations to the Texans. I think that the Browns are probably just a quarterback away from a deep playoff run. They had issues with their defense this wild card game, which they didn't have issues with their defense all year. So it was really surprising that the one thing that kind of failed for the team that wasn't expected to fail, the defense did fail. That was kind of the unexpected thing. The Browns did fire their offensive coordinator. How much of a difference do you think that really makes, considering that Kevin Stefanski calls the offensive plays? How much do you think that actually makes a difference, firing your offensive coordinator like that?
I think it does. I think it does make a difference. There was a really, really cool piece that one of the 49ers beat writers did a couple months ago. He was allowed into the locker room at halftime of a 49ers game. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the interesting revelations that came out of that is when it's halftime and they're scribbling on the whiteboard, the 49ers run game coordinator is writing down all the run plays that are going into the game plan for the second half, while Kyle Shanahan is doing the passing plays. That is
Mm.
all put on that run game coordinator's desk, his plate, to figure out those run plays. So there's a lot more to the scheming that goes into the week, and firing the offensive coordinator, is it important or not? Maybe not that important, but the one thing the Browns have to figure out is what they can do to make their quarterback successful enough to get them back to the playoffs, because they don't have any other options. There's no,
They're tied up.
yeah. I mean, even the Broncos are moving on from Russell Wilson. They can take whatever the cap hit is. It's pretty nasty, but that contract's fully guaranteed. There's no moving off of it. You just got to play
There's
him
not.
or
Yeah,
hope he
it's 90.
retires.
It's $92 million as dead money if you do a post June 1st cut. That's this year. So you're like super tied up. They're $14 million over the cap space currently. When you look at the cut candidates of this team, anything that you look up for cut candidates, three names kind of come to mind. Nick Chubb, Dustin Hopkins, and Elijah Moore, all the guys who pop up. Chubb alone cutting him post June 1st, $12 million. It's like $11.9 million in saved cap space from one dude alone. And running backs are dying in the league. As good as Nick Chubb is,
Yeah,
as
it's almost a
faithful as he
guarantee.
is, it's disappointing. And we're going to talk about the Browns and some trade stuff potentially a little bit later on a deal or no deal. But that's one of the guys. If a potential bargain can be found on the trade market, like one Cleveland got with Amari Cooper, which was moronic for the Cowboys, but great for the Browns, they're going to jump on it. But guys like Azeez Ojulari and Mike Williams, who are on expiring contracts, you might be able to get a little cheaper. Those guys might be potential trade candidates, but that doesn't help with the quarterback situation, they don't have a first round pick. The 2024 draft will be the last draft that Cleveland owes a first round pick to the Texans for the Deshaun Watson trade. And they also own the Browns' fourth rounder on top of that. So you're missing 2 draft picks. You're over the cap space by $14 million. You have a underperforming quarterback with a super, super large overpaying contract. It's kind of like what you said. You find a way to make this team good enough or the quarterback good enough to get back to the playoffs or even make a deep playoff run, right?
Yeah, the only other option they have is if it doesn't work out with Deshaun next year, is they just draft a quarterback really, really high the year prior, and then you
Yeah.
just you obviously bench Deshaun, and then you just operate as if a team. You operate as a team with a massive cap hit for
Mm,
QB. They kind of made a deal with the devil the way they did this, and how they knew he was going to be suspended the first year with his $1 million cap hit and all that other nonsense, and they're kind of paying for it now. But that's what Jimmy
yeah.
Haslam gets. But the defense is super talented, so you have to figure something out, because you can continue to go to the playoffs the next couple of years, even with a question mark at quarterback. And you don't need Nick Chubb to do it. Obviously, you learned that this year. And so I would almost guarantee at this point, I'd write it down
Yeah.
in permanent marker that he's not going to be on the team next year. And you have to figure out a way to make it work with Deshaun, because you have no other option unless you're going to bench him and ride a rookie.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of is if they're going to take someone in the second round. I mean, if you look at second round candidates, well, you have JJ McCarthy, what's his name?
Bo
It's like
Nix, maybe.
something, right? Isn't
Yeah.
his name?
Yeah.
There's a couple guys out there who are like second to third rounders who could turn into something. Do you really want to take a hit and a risk on a guy as controversial as Spencer Rattler? So it kind of depends, right? I mean, those are a couple of candidates that could come around in the second or third round. But at the end of the day, do you want to continue to build this team and ride with it next year? And then, like you said, the year after, draft a quarterback in the first round, maybe even high first round? Or are you going to try to take a quarterback, see what you have, evaluate him? If Deshaun's not winning and not playing well, sub that rookie in and let him play. Is he good enough, right? Is he going to be Joe Flacco good enough? That's kind of the level, right? Is he good enough to just be Joe Flacco off the couch good enough? Because that's all I need you to be. And the fact that Deshaun Watson wasn't even Joe Flacco off the couch good enough, it says a lot, man. It says a lot about him.
Well, at this point, I don't even think we're at a conversation where we're evaluating Deshaun's talent. I think we're evaluating Deshaun's heart. Is he going to miss 3 weeks every time he sprains his pinky toe because he's got this guaranteed contract? Listen, if the owner of my business came in and said, "Listen, Drew, we're going to put you on a salary. You're going to make this money. It's more money than you've ever been made. It's more money than we're paying anyone else. And no matter
Mm-hmm.
what, I can't fire you." There's not much motivation there for me to work hard because I'm getting the money anyway. And
Hey,
I
man,
think,
he could call out and just say the roads are icy, right?
yeah,
Hey, I can't go. The roads are icy, right? My name's
it's
DeAndre, and I
cold.
can't go play. It's really freezing. Somehow guys can come out and make it out to my house and try to clear the roads, but I can't make it to the game somehow. Weird. First guy in NBA history, I swear, to call out of a game. It's insane. And Deshaun Watson might be the first guy in the NFL to do that too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Bo Nix is the answer. I don't think JJ
Yeah.
McCarthy is the answer there. At least not this year. But there's a million things you can do. The problem is the defense is too talented to put you in the top 10 for picks. Even
Hmm.
if
Yeah.
Deshaun, let's say he sprains his ankle and goes on the IR for the entire season, you're still going to win games. Look at the Jets this year. The Jets won a couple games. So
Very
um,
true.
honestly, if I were the Browns, I would hire. Um, the most Greg Roman got a offensive coordinator interview the other day for the Chicago Bears, which had everyone freaking out because that makes it seem like they're going to keep Fields.
Yeah, Justin. Yeah.
Maybe the
I don't
Browns
know.
trade for Justin Fields.
Well, again, we're going to talk about Justin Fields later on in
My
our
fault.
deal or no deal.
My bad.
No, you're good, dude. It's the preview. People can wait for it now. Moving on to our second loser of the AFC, the Steelers. The Steelers suck. I don't care that they were in the playoffs. I don't care about the record. I don't care about anything. They suck. 21st in yards allowed this year. They were 10th in takeaways. That's great. Top 10 in some category. Congratulations. Round of applause. 17th in passing defense, 19th in rushing defense. Kenny Pickett threw for 2,070 yards, 6 touchdowns. I didn't know it was the 1950s, and 4 interceptions. Their rushing was 13th in rushing yards, 12th in rushing touchdowns, 14th in expected points contributed by rushing offense. Their top pass catchers were George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. Freiermuth being injured for most of the year. The offensive line is average to forgettable, and there's little financial flexibility. They're $6.7 million over the cap space this year. But I guess they have 7 draft picks, so they own their draft picks, which is good. But this team sucks. I mean, it starts and ends with the quarterback, I guess, right? But overall, I mean, you heard me read out the numbers, and there's nothing. It's a miracle they made it in. I would much rather see another. I would rather see the Colts make it. I wanted to see the Colts make it over the goddamn Steelers. I think the Colts had a better chance of beating anybody than the Steelers did. The Steelers suck in all facets.
Yeah, and they've already announced that Tomlin's back.
Yeah.
I think they're a big candidate for Kirk Cousins this year. He can rehab his Achilles and get back in there. Did you see Najee Harris going off about what they say is George Pickens and about how George Pickens doesn't want to block because he doesn't want to get hurt? That I put a little red flag on Micah Parsons. I'm putting a medium-sized red flag on the Steelers because that whole situation is. My team, if you don't block, you don't play. So downfield blocking by the wide receivers is what makes the engine go in San Francisco land. So Pickens doesn't want to block because he doesn't want to get hurt. Najee Harris quietly had a good season. He doesn't seem like a top 10 pick anymore, but you only have to rush for like 60 yards a game to get to 1,000 yards. So how exciting is it really? But there's only 5 or 6 of those guys that went for 1,000 yards this year, and he was one of them.
Very true.
He calls Pickens out. He didn't say Pickens by name, but that whole thing, and it's so weird when the defense that they have. You would just think with T.J. Watt and Highsmith on the other side and the safety, and you would just think that
Minka Fitzpatrick and Joey Porter, and
I mean, you stick a defense like that on the Packers, and you have a Super Bowl favorite, so they got to figure something.
Yeah,
they got to figure something out.
19th. I don't think you get a 19th in rushing defense and 17th in passing defense, right? You look at the names and you look and see what they have, and it's confusing, right? Do you know off the top of your head who the defensive coordinator is for the Steelers? Because is that the issue, right? I mean, it kind of comes down to coaching. On the offense, the rushing numbers aren't atrocious. They're middle of the road, 13th, 12th, 14th. They're there. Najee, again, like you said, quietly having a decent season, and you have weapons, Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Freiermuth. Offensive line needs some help, but they're young. You draft a guy like Broderick Jones last year, and he has really good flashes. Now I would move him over to the left tackle position, his natural position, instead of the right tackle, and let the other guys battle it out for that position. That's there, but it's just you can't do it with Kenny Pickett, man.
You can't do it with any of them. They need to overhaul that entire quarterback room. Like if you want to keep Mason around to be your emergency, that's fine. But there's just gonna be too much and it's funny how we recycle these guys that have had poor. Who would have won them a game is Carson Wentz, and I know he's a cancer, but look at what Sean McVay did to Baker Mayfield last year. He sprinkled a little Sean McVay dust on him. Look what Baker did this year. Carson Wentz, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo. There's going to be some bona fide options out there in free agency this year, and the Sixers. Honestly, I know you just drafted the dude in the first round, but it's clear that he can't play. It's if you're not going to be throwing from the pocket, if you're not going to be throwing from the pocket, you at least got to do the weird stuff that Justin Fields does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't see an offensive play caller. This is the other thing is all the best offensive play callers on the market, they become head coaches, right? There's nobody that wants to come be the OC in Pittsburgh. There's nobody wants to come be the OC in Philadelphia, knowing that those head coaches might be on the hot seat because then they're a one-hit wonder. Unless you're talking about a guy that is taking a massive promotion, a QB's coach or a running backs coach to be an offensive coordinator, then how is that guy going to make Kenny Pickett effective anyway? I
don't think you can.
I don't know what their game plan is. They should scour free agency this offseason and just there's plenty of guys out there. I mean, isn't someone interested in Sam Darnold? Like he sat as the backup all season and learned from Kyle. Why wouldn't you take a flyer on him instead of
Yeah, I mean,
bringing back Kenny Pickett?
when you look at the guys who are free agents for quarterbacks, you have Kirk Cousins, you have Baker Mayfield, Justin Fields is going to be a trade candidate. Kyler Murray could potentially be a trade candidate. Russell Wilson's going to get cut, obviously. And then
Take Russell Wilson to Pittsburgh. That's perfect. Call Dallas up and offer a 3rd-round pick for Cooper Rush. Like, you have so many options besides Kenny frickin' Pickett.
Yeah, 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions is crazy in 2024. Like, that's crazy. Like, there's bad, 21 touchdowns, 21 picks or whatever that goddamn Sam Howell had in a million yards, right? There's bad where there's numbers still being put up and you just know, like, yo, that's a big stat patter, but he's not very good. And then there's Kenny Pickett. Like, there's that, and then there's a level below it.
And you have those 2 wide receivers. Johnson is a route running guy, and Pickens, he can do one thing. Pickens goes deep. You have the tight end. I have an idea. Call up the Saints and go get Jameis frickin' Winston. He might throw 31 touchdowns and 31 picks, but it's better than 6 and 4. There are so many options to complete. I thought Tomlin should be fired because he kept trotting that fool out there, and then he trotted out Mitchell Trubisky. What are we doing? Just run the Wildcat. Don't run Trubisky out there anymore. And then you put Mason. You're telling me you spent all season with Mitchell Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, and you started your playoff game with Mason Rudolph. He was sitting there all season. You went into the playoffs. You decided Mason Rudolph was your best option. You should be fired just for taking that long to get there. Like, Christian McCaffrey played quarterback for half a game last year in the playoffs. That was better than what we watched with Kenny Pickett this year. And the one pass that Christian McCaffrey threw was like a dead duck that it went off somewhere. It still hasn't landed. That's how bad of a pass it was. Still better than Kenny Pickett.
Absolutely. And now let's shift gears away from the Steelers and just absolute, I think, mediocrity and just suckiness. Let's shift to the last team that lost. Let's talk about Miami, right? I think when you look at Miami's team on paper, it looks really good, right? Great running backs, good running back community, great wide receiver room. You have a good offensive line, if healthy. That's kind of the trick there. If healthy, a very good offensive line. You have 2 premier pass rushers on the edge. If healthy, the defense is stout, right? You have 2 good corners. You have good safety. It looks like a Super Bowl caliber team. It does. But I think you need to have an uncomfortable, weird conversation about Tua. Is Tua the issue here? Because I don't think it's not coaching. They got a stud coach over there who coaches them up. And I mean, we're talking about one of the best coaches, I think, in the league. Top 10 at least over there in Miami. What's the issue? Tua had a 69.3 completion percentage, 4,624 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 14 picks. I believe it's the highest yards he's had in a season, but it's also first time he's played a full slate of games, and then 14 picks, which is the highest that he's had. Once again, a full slate of games for the first time in his career, which is a red flag, obviously, because the other ones, it's not like, oh, he played 15 or he played 16 and sat out the last one. It's like, no, he played 11 or 8. This is like the first time he's even cracked 15. So it's definitely troubling. Is Tua the issue on this team, or is it something else?
I don't think it matters. He's coming back next year no matter what. He's playing on the 5th-year option no matter what. The guy almost died on the football field, it felt like 3 different times last year with those concussions. They didn't even look to upgrade off of him. They just brought him right back. And the thing is if we had led the podcast with this conversation about Tua, maybe we have a different opinion. But when you go into talking about Kenny Pickett and all these other teams out there that are in QB poverty, and you have a quarterback that was talked about at one point as the MVP this year, early on. I sent the snap. I said, "Man, Tua's going to win the MVP if he keeps doing this."
Yeah.
And if he had been strong, it was a down year for the MVP thing. Lamar's going to take it, and the All Pros came out, right. Dak was second team All Pro. That's your proof that Dak was going to win it if Lamar hadn't. I think that the Dolphins, what they need to understand is that they're never going to win it if they have to go to the frigid cold. So you have to win as many games as you can. You have to win the division. But the other thing you have to understand about the Miami Dolphins poverty franchise is this isn't the 49ers. This isn't the Dallas Cowboys. There's not a championship mentality down there in Miami. If they compete for their division year after year and they win 10 to 12 games year after year and they're in the playoffs year after year, that owner is happy as hell. Now, the fans may not be, but ultimately it's the owner that makes the decisions. I don't think you have to move off of him. The thing that's going to be coming up in the next couple of years is there's going to be a situation where every single time a quarterback right now signs a contract, it's its next biggest. I think that we're going to see that dialed back a little bit. You can't pay Tua $60 million. You can't. Personally, I don't think you can pay Dak $60 million. Like, what?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure. No.
Can I run through the quarterbacks in the playoffs? And can I ask you, would you take this quarterback or Tua? Let's do a this or that real quick.
7 first-round picks and a Mr. Irrelevant. Let's go.
So, would you take Tua or Jalen Hurts right now?
Tua.
Tua or Baker?
Tua.
Tua or Matt Stafford?
Stafford.
Tua or Jared Goff?
Goff.
Tua or, let's go with the starter, Deshaun Watson. Tua or CJ Stroud?
Stroud.
Tua or Patrick Mahomes?
Mahomes.
Are you going Tua or Purdy?
Purdy.
Tua or Lamar Jackson?
Lamar.
Tua or Jordan Love?
Jordan Love.
And Tua or Dak?
Dak.
I mean, so we go
half and half almost, really.
So what we said, Tua for
Baker,
Browns, and Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, yeah.
So 3 out of our 14 playoff teams, or excluding them, 13.
Yeah, but that also has a lot to do with who Tua's coach is. I don't want Tua and Sirianni. I'll take.
That's fair.
I'll take Trey Lance. Like I'm just saying it's about, if I get Tua, I get Mike McDaniels, right? If I get Purdy, I get Kyle Shanahan. Listen,
that's a good point. Yeah,
I would take Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan over almost 25 other combos in the NFL right now. But if you gave me the opportunity to switch Brock Purdy out with another quarterback and keep Kyle Shanahan, there's probably 10 guys that I would take Brock Purdy over. And that's obviously contract not taken into account. Because, I mean, if you said, hey, contracts matter, well, I'm taking CJ Stroud and Jordan Love over almost everybody out there at this point. So,
and I don't blame you. I think you're right about that one.
I just think the Miami Dolphins have to be okay winning 10 to 12 games for the next 3 years. And they have to understand that you can't give Tua $250 million. And you know what? If somebody wants to, then more power to them. It's a terrible idea. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that are coming up for extent. Brock Purdy's not going to make $250 million. You know what? Right. Maybe he will. Maybe he wins the Super Bowl next year and we win the Super Bowl next year and you have to pay the guy.
Yeah.
But we've already seen what Brock Purdy's limitations are.
Are you conceding that the Niners aren't going to win this year? Is that what I just heard? Is that why you went next year?
No, I am a fan of my teams who's always scared, always in doubt. Like the 49ers have had a historic offense this year, right? They fucking smashed everybody. I'm nervous every game, man. Like,
so next year you'll say next year, right?
Right.
And and then the year after you'll say next year.
it's just one of those things where I still haven't. The dude was the last pick in the draft. We're gonna win a Super Bowl with him.
Mm-hmm.
We drafted a quarterback in the top 5 picks of the NFL draft, and he got like 3 starts. The one thing I will tell you about the 49ers, though, man, is the 49ers went to the playoffs. They went to the Super Bowl
Mm-hmm.
with Jimmy Garoppolo, and the 49ers tried to replace that dude. They
Yeah.
drafted Trey Lance, and they traded that dude away right away. Nobody should think that if they tried to trade for Matt Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
Mike LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan are really good friends. They have been for a really long time. The 49ers called the Packers on Aaron Rodgers and pissed LaFleur off because he's like, Kyle, you're supposed to be my guy. Why are you trying to take my quarterback? Every time there's some dude available, the 49ers are like, That's the one thing about the Niners. Christian McCaffrey, Randy Gregory, Chase Young. We're what the Cowboys want to
Phone
be.
calls.
We
Yeah,
go
phone
get the
calls.
guys. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, we restock at the trade deadline. We traded for Jimmy Garoppolo one year. So it's just one of those things where if Brock is not a Super Bowl winning quarterback for us,
Mm-hmm.
we might try to upgrade. Who knows?
And then to flip that too, whatever, like it literally, I feel like does not matter what Brock does at this point. He's already way more successful than any person on planet Earth, except maybe him and his family, thought he was going to be. I think that's. And the other thing, I don't know, ESPN, one of the talk shows, they stand up on the goddamn big board and they go, Discord, we're going to rank every single remaining quarterback. And they start clicking on the screen. They start putting everyone. I think they ranked Brock like 6 or 7, like only ahead of like Baker.
Well, they don't watch.
I don't know. Yeah.
They don't watch.
Me personally, I mean, I've watched Jared Goff and I've watched Brock Purdy. I like the arm talent way better in Brock. The decision making's damn near the same, but I like the arm talent better in Brock than I do Jared Goff. And he was like 4, like with only like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and someone else maybe. I don't remember who the other person was, but it's like 4, bro. 4 for. I like Jared Goff, but come on, man, let's be a little bit more realistic about it.
There's nobody out there that can argue that this Sunday's game, Jordan Love is the far superior physical talent. The dude's got a cannon. He's throwing off his back foot. He's throwing off his tippy toes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's about the makeup, and it's about running the system the way you're asked to, and it's about improvising in the right way. I remember a play last year in the playoffs where he floated this ball to George Kittle, who wasn't even part of the assignment, and Trayvon Diggs tried to headhunt and completely missed, and we won a playoff game from it. The other thing that's crazy to me is, the dude's got more playoff wins than Lamar Jackson does. Like, everybody just keeps forgetting, but then I'm that way too. That's why I'm saying, in my mind, the 49ers winning the Super Bowl this year is a complete fantasy. Like, I don't, because we keep getting close and it never happens. But yeah, I'm not taking Jared Goff over Brock Purdy. I'd take Jordan Love over Brock Purdy, though.
I think that's fair. Let's just shift right into the divisional round matchups now. Okay, since we're talking about the playoffs anyways, right? So this weekend, Saturday and Sunday games, there's 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. Let's go ahead and start off with the AFC top seeded team. The Texans are going to be playing at Baltimore against the Ravens. Who takes this game and why?
We're making predictions at this point, right?
Correct.
Baltimore wins.
Okay.
Actually, I think it's going to be a little nasty. I think Baltimore's going to win a little nasty. Like,
bro, it's so hard for me to choose Baltimore. Like, I want to. I think this.
Oh, pick the Texans, please,
dude. I think that.
Let's take the Texans to the Super Bowl. That's easier for the NFC to win the Super Bowl. You should want the NFC to win.
Think, unless it's the Niners. I think that. Oh man, it's so difficult. I like Lamar, and I think this run means the most to Lamar Jackson. Any quarterback right now, this playoff run means the most to 2 quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Those true. 2 quarterbacks, this playoff run means the most to. It doesn't matter that much. Whatever CJ Stroud does at this point does not matter. They can get blown out. It does not matter. They won a playoff game. They're in the playoffs. They should not be at this point. It is a huge success story for them to be here. But man, Lamar struggles in the playoffs, man. And Texans tore apart that defense, bro, against Cleveland. They tore it apart and they got decimated without CJ Stroud before. And CJ Stroud comes back and plays the Browns a couple weeks later and says, bro, you're not doing it again. It's a fluke. I wasn't there. It's like when your like big brother shows up and it's like, hey, you were picking on like my guys before. Now I'm coming to get my back. And the Ravens defense is so good. That's why on paper, you look at them like, oh, it's the Ravens, bro. Like they got Lamar Jackson. They got that offense. That their defense is crazy. It's like a black hole that sucks everything in and nothing gets out. But goddamn, Cleveland's supposed to be the same way. Cleveland's supposed to be that good too. That's like the number one ranked defense in so many categories. And the Texans decimate them like that and put up that many points. And it's not like they had a bunch of injuries too. So I'm going with the Texans because I want to. And I want to see it, and because Lamar Jackson and the Ravens struggle in the playoffs. That's why I'm taking it.
The flip side to that, though, is that the Ravens can put up the points also. If the Texans decimate the Ravens defense, Mark Andrews is coming back. I don't know if he's playing this week or it's going to be next week, but
he's questionable currently. He has not been ruled out.
Okay. I mean, if you're questionable after you've had your practice window open and everything, I'm of the mindset that it's a broken ankle. If it's healed, you play. The Ravens could put up the hey, listen, whatever. Hey, if the 49ers beat the Packers, the Bucks, and the Texans to win the Super Bowl, I don't give a shit. You can line up the Chicago Bears 3 weeks in a row if it gets us the Super Bowl. I just want a parade. I don't need to. Oh, you should have beat the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Chiefs. No, because all I remember is that year that the 49ers destroyed the San Diego Chargers. I think it was 116-3. It doesn't matter as long as we host the trophy. So I'm all for the Texans winning. Personally, I don't think it matters. Texans, Ravens doesn't matter. They're not making it to the Super Bowl anyway. So,
and the Texans defense isn't any slouch either. They're kind of middle of the road in a lot of categories. 14th in yards allowed, 16th in takeaways, 23rd in passing defense. But I don't think that's the thing that you really focus on with the Ravens, right? Lamar has shown that he could be a quarterback, especially this year. He's done, I think, very well. But the thing that really caps it all off for me is they're 6th in rushing defense. So being that kind of fringe, almost top 5 team in that rushing defense is going to give them a huge push. And obviously, D'Amico Ryans, defensive coach. I think this is going to be one of two ways. I don't think this is going to be a blowout for the Texans, but I do think it's either going to be a close game win for the Texans or a blowout win for Baltimore. I want to go with the Texans on this one.
Two things wrapping this up. As I stated earlier, John Harbaugh introduces himself as Super Bowl winning head coach. And Lamar Jackson is 27 years old, and he's about to introduce himself as 2-time NFL MVP. For that reason, I don't think the pressure is that high on them. I do think it's important that Lamar wins at least one playoff game in dominant fashion.
For sure. For sure.
Just to show that he can do it. But the other thing is there was this video of D'Amico. He pulls his linebacker aside, and they did a whole little video on it. And he's like, listen, sit in the zone, follow his eyes, break on the out route. I promise you it'll be there. Like 4 plays later, sits in the zone, follows his eyes, breaks on the out route, and he picks Joe Flacco for a second interception. And D'Amico's like losing his crap on the sideline, jumping up and down, running down the field, almost knocks over the referee. And then a couple minutes later, he's kneeled down over there. He's looking at his play calls, and the referee comes over and he yells next to him. He's like, hey, you know, I almost had to truck you right there, right?
Yeah, I almost run you over.
Michael's like, hey, I'm so sorry, bro. I know I was in your way. I apologize, blah, blah, blah. That's a legit badass. And then the respect he had for the referees, the Houston Texans, man, that just is, it just goes to show you they had bad karma for a long time, which isn't necessarily true. They won playoff games. But
yeah, for sure.
Holy shit, they hit the gold mine first year. Like those dudes might be there the next 10 years, CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryans. That might be, I don't think they'll ever get dynasty level because, there's bigger franchises to play for, and I don't know if they'll draw but it's Texas. Why wouldn't someone want to go play for them? So,
and that's the thing is, not only did they hit on their 2nd overall pick, they hit on their 3rd overall pick. They traded back up for Will Anderson's a stud, bro. He is what he's supposed to be, right? I think 7 sacks as a rookie is pretty damn good, right? That's why Micah got all the hype, crazy hype for double-digit sacks, because getting double-digit sacks as a rookie is crazy, but getting 7 sacks is really good still. Will Anderson is going to be that guy. I mean, you and I chit-chatted back and forth about Will Anderson when he got drafted, and how exciting he was and how good it was to look at him, and he just looked kind of prototypical, and he's just kind of proven it here, so it's great.
I think we can definitely end the conversation officially now that it's been a couple of years on your boy. I know you're a big Aiden Hutchinson fan, and I was a Kayvon Thibodeau guy, and I think I took the L on that one. So Aiden looks like Aiden's not Nick Bosa or Myles Garrett or whatever, but the dude, And before we go further in the playoffs, are the Raiders really gonna hire Antonio Pierce with all these candidates out there, or are they gonna trade away Max Crosby when they go with someone else?
Damn, I should have put that in the deal or no deal for Max. Damn it.
Because they gotta know the Raiders got to go get the Lions OC, right? Like, what are you doing? Go give that dude all the money. Give him the keys to the castle. Like, Max Crosby's a nice dude, but he's a 5th-round pick. He's not Myles Garrett. Like, he's great, but he's good.
Yeah,
I'm not going to slander the man, but
you can't hire someone off of vibes. Like, it's cool to have vibes as like a replacement, an interim, but you can't be a head coach off of just vibes.
When
right?
You could get Vrabel.
That's like, yeah, dude, yeah, especially that. I don't know how you can. Like you said, with the head coach candidates that are out there right now, I don't know if you can right now. And if he does get rehired, damn well it's only because of Max Crosby at this point. That's it. He didn't do horrible. I think he broke even or something like that. It's just not. It's not something that it's worthy being hired over.
I know a certain Cowboys fan that said they'd take Antonio Pierce as their head coach. So he's in demand.
Yeah, I would. Goddamn, bro. I would. I'm tired of it. I'm tired. I'm so tired. God. 10 years. Dude, 10 years. I swear. Dude, now you're going to get me on a rant. Dude, if you think about it, as a Cowboys fan, again, I've been neck deep in football for a decade now, which isn't as long as some other people, right? But I'm only 25. So I've been neck deep in deep football knowledge for a decade now. And I've had my new year ruined for 10 years. 10 years. I can't even.
Yeah, but your team has just as many Super Bowl wins as my team in the last 10 years. And you guys are like a playoff joke, and we're like the class of the NFL or something. It just...
Yeah, but if you don't know how it feels to not even see your team get past the divisional. Like, we're the divisional poverty franchise, and we couldn't even get there this season.
Whatever. Listen, you don't know pain until you watch Kyle Williams fumble 67 different punt returns and have us lose to the fucking New York Giants. Yeah, Eli freaking Manning, bro.
Yeah, that man is born off of luck. Yeah. Moving on to I don't want to go to the other AFC team yet. I want to switch gears, go to the NFC number 1 seed. Packers versus the 49ers playing
41-20.
Playing in Santa Clara. We have the prediction already. Yeah, I don't like the Niners. Am I going to go with the Packers, though? No, I'm not dumb. But I hope I do just as horrible as last week, and I hope I get this one wrong, and I hope the Packers continue on. Because I hate the Packers. Again, we have lost 3 in the last 10 years. 3 playoff matches against the Packers. 2 against the Niners in the last 10 years. So I hate them both. The only other team that's beat us in the playoffs is the Rams. I don't hate the Rams. I don't really care about the Rams. Good on you. Congratulations. I hate them both, but I'm not going to be dumb here. This one's going to go to the Niners, and goddamn, I mean, the score sounds pretty dramatic because it's an NFL game, and you don't see huge blowouts like that all the time, especially with divisional round matchups, I feel like. But yeah, man, I don't particularly think this one's going to be close. It'd be cool if it was. I like to see good games. I don't think this is going to be like with the Texans Ravens. Oh, I think the Texans can barely edge one out, or I think that I don't even have that feeling at all with the Packers Niners. I think this is going to be the Niners all the way. I think this is going to be a pretty convincing schooling.
None of the stuff that we heard about the Packers last week have changed. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. Their linebackers are both 67 years old. Like, they're just they don't guard the tight end. Jake Ferguson had a banner week, and the small caveat that I'm not that confident in my team, it always exists in the back of my mind, but um, the
Yeah, for sure.
49ers have bigger business to handle this year. The team's locked in. They just
Yeah.
watched this team smoke the Cowboys, so they're going to be double ready. And the only
Yeah.
thing that makes the Cowboys losing better is if we come out and destroy the Packers, which football math equates to the Cowboys just being a joke because that team destroyed you and we destroyed them. It
Yeah.
put a little extra sweetness this year when we beat the Cardinals, then we beat you guys. It's like, yeah, nobody's in our class. And then we went, and got rained on in Cleveland, and Joe Burrow went MVP on us and a
Yeah.
couple other things. But, I don't think that we've faced Aaron Jones before.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, this is the 10th time the Packers have played the 49ers in the playoffs. That's the most in NFL history matchup wise. We've been beating the Packers in the playoffs my entire football life, and most of that was
Yeah.
McCarthy. But the blocked punt by Jordan Willis that Hufanga recovered in the frigid snow, and a couple other playoffs. Aaron Jones has never rushed for 100 yards against us in the playoffs. I don't think it'll
Yep.
start now. And Mooney Ward is a baller, and our linebackers are ballers. And
Yeah.
I think they can score 17 to 21 points on us. And I just think it's the playoffs, and we know that team can score, and we're gonna keep scoring. I think we're gonna do the 49er thing. We're gonna score at the end of the half to go up, 21 to 10, and then we're gonna come out of halftime. We're gonna score again. It's gonna be 28 to 10, and the game's over. It doesn't matter after that
Yeah.
point. So I think it's gonna be big, but that doesn't take anything away from the Packers. Going into Dallas and winning a playoff game on the road is massive. It's very, very hard to do it more than one time. And kudos to them.
We didn't lose 2 years. 2 years we didn't lose at home. And they came in and beat us. So
yeah, kudos
shows.
to them. They have a bright future in front of them. So
yeah, for sure. Moving on to the other game, Bucks versus the Lions. Man, I put up these games on my Google Doc form, right? Texans versus Ravens, Packers versus Niners, Bucks versus Lions. I put it all up, right? And Chiefs versus Bills obviously will be next. And I had the only one I kind of like immediately was just like easy was the Niners. I could see like Texans beating the Ravens. I could see the Bucks beating the Lions. But I'm going to go with the Lions on this one. I'm not going to waver off that. I think the Lions are going to take it. I like the success story with Baker, coming in and winning a playoff game against the Eagles. But we're talking about an Eagles team that had horrible defense. And the Lions defense isn't like elite or crazy good or anything like that. But it's better than the Eagles. So there's that. And then we're talking about a terrible Eagles offense at this point in the season, and the Lions offense is better than that. And the Bucks defense sucks. It really sucks. It's not good. It's just as bad.
Though.
It shouldn't, but it is.
Because
It's
they have
almost
talent.
as bad as the Eagles defense. Their numbers are literally like Eagles rank like 23rd in a category. They're ranked like 22nd. It's that close with them. I think this one goes to the Lions.
I think it's crazy. That's another head coaching job. That dude's supposed to be a defensive coach, and his defense sucks. Even though you have two great middle linebackers, Vita Vea is a beast. Your corners are young and talented. You have an all-pro at safety. Why do you guys suck again? Explain this to me. With Todd Bowles as your head coach, for that reason, like I just outlined, I think they can beat the Lions. I think the Lions had them. I think they had their Super Bowl last week. The stars were out. 65,000 people were singing Eminem's song with him in the stands. And it's hard to get up for something like that and keep getting back up and keep getting back up. And they play in a dome. So did you see them asking the Bucks head coach, or maybe it was the offensive coordinator or how are you guys preparing to go to the frigid temperatures in Detroit? And the coach was like,
oh yeah,
they play in a dome.
It doesn't make a difference, right?
Yeah. Kudos to him. He wasn't that rude, which was nice. But the thing about the Bucks and Baker, and trust me, I'm rooting for them. I want to see them in the next round if we make it. They're just playing with found money. It's like the Packers last week. They They didn't know they were supposed to get blown out by the Cowboys. They just came out and played their game. I think the Bucks are going to do the same thing. I think it'll be really, really close. It's going to be Lions, Rams all over again. Hopefully they don't burn their timeouts too early. Maybe a fumble, maybe a punt return, maybe something crazy happens in the playoffs, and we have maybe a Stephon Diggs moment when he played for the Vikings and the guy tries to make the tackle with his head down. Something crazy happens in the game, the Bucks win, and they go to the NFC Championship game.
What a turn. That'd be crazy. My foreman is he's a Bucks fan. So, shout out to him. But unfortunately, I'm rooting against you this week. Was with you last week, but not this week. Moving on to our last game. Dude, this is Brady Manning type vibes, right? Chiefs versus Bills. Who are you going with, man? This is exciting because I think could be a split down the middle for a lot of people. I might know where you're going, but I want to hear it.
I'm going with the California Kid, Josh Allen, and the Buffalo Bills. I don't know why. They fired their OC. Their head coach was on the hot seat, but Josh Allen is a baller. The Chiefs can't catch the ball. And the only reason why the Chiefs won last week, everybody's like, oh, the Chiefs offense, they look back to normal 26 points. No, the Dolphins were cold. They didn't want to tackle. They didn't want to play football. They didn't want to do nothing. Josh Allen, war daddy. Did you see him with his 50-yard touchdown?
Yeah.
Some skeptics are out there talking about how he faked a slide and kept going. Oh, well, the rules allow it for him to do it. Push, that the fake slide, whatever you want to call it. They got talent all over the place. They got talent, the running back, the wide receiver. They got the feel-good story of the year with the guy that almost died on the field. They got everything. Yeah. And it's the Bills' time, man. It's the Bills' time. The Chiefs have spanked that ass for a couple of years in a row now. And it's time for the Bills to take the next step. Although, I got to be honest with you, for their future, I think it'd be better if they lost and they fired their head coach and got somebody better. But I think the Bills are going to win. Regardless, I think whoever wins this game is going to go to the Super Bowl. And if we're viewing it from a mindset of the 49ers making the Super Bowl, obviously we can't view that for the Dallas Cowboys anymore. Sorry, rest in peace. I'm scared of both teams evenly. I'm not more scared of the Chiefs than I am. Actually, I'm a little more scared of the Bills just because of the running quarterback aspect. But I think whoever wins this game is going to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. And I think it's the Bills. I think it's their time.
So I said that the playoff runs, or this playoff run, means the most to two quarterbacks, right? I said it means the most to Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen.
Yep.
Do you remember who I picked for the Texans-Ravens game?
The Texans.
Yeah, I'm not going to waver away from that. I'm going the opposite of Josh Allen on this one. I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I want this to be a really, really good game. But it was another one that I had a lot of trouble with because I could see this going either way. And like, when I mean either way, I mean like Chiefs barely edging it out like the Texans will, or a complete decimation and embarrassing loss for the Chiefs and the Bills take it. That's what I can see. I like the story regardless of whoever, if this is, hey, whoever's winning this game is going to the Super Bowl. I like the story regardless, whether it's Patrick Mahomes gets to add another Super Bowl appearance to his resume, or the Bills and Josh Allen make it and Josh Allen proves, hey, I am that dude. You can't say nothing about me. Yeah, throw my picks, but who's in the Super Bowl, right? I think it does make a huge difference. And I think I like the story regardless. I'm going with the Chiefs. I'm not mad if the Bills win. It's the same thing with the Texans-Ravens. I'm picking the Texans, but I'm not mad if the Ravens make it. Okay, that's kind of at the end of the day. And me personally, you said I should root for whoever, like the NFC team comes in and for the Super Bowl. My coworker recently asked me who, since the Cowboys aren't in it anymore, who's winning it? And I said anybody not from the NFC. I'll take the Lions, or excuse me, I'll take the Chiefs, I'll take the Bills, I'll take the Texans, I'll take the Ravens, I'll take anybody on that side. And the story's on that side. I don't want to see the Packers make it. I don't want to see them win. I don't want to see the Niners make it, and I don't want to see them win. I don't want to see the Bucks or the Lions make it, and I don't care. I don't care about any of them. Maybe Bucks Lions, like that's a little bit more interesting, but I'm not going to root for them because I don't think either one of them are going to go. I think this comes down to if the Packers beat you guys, they're going to the Super Bowl, I think. I think that's what it kind of comes down to.
Well, then I'm rooting for the Packers to win. Whatever team knocks us out, I want them to win the Super Bowl because then at least it's justified. Listen, if the Packers beat the 49ers this week, Cowboys fans rejoice. They're just fucking way better than we thought they were.
Imagine that the Packers beat the Cowboys, the Niners, and then Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, one of those super teams to win the Super Bowl. Like that's a crazy run, bro. Like you talked about, hey, if we beat the Packers and the Bucks, I don't really care, and then the Texans, I don't really care. But imagine the run that you go on, dude. That's like one of the toughest rings you got to imagine in recent memory, going through the Niners, the Cowboys, and Ravens, Bills, Chiefs. One of them. That's tough, bro. That's real tough.
Well, and don't forget, whoever wins the Bucks Detroit game, Packers are the 7th seed, so that would be 3 road games to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, on top of that, dude.
Because of that, I don't think it happens for that exact reason. But if the 49ers, I don't want to root for anyone for the 49ers to lose to in the Super Bowl. But if the 49ers don't win the Super Bowl this year, I'd love to see Josh Allen win it. That's not true. I would love CJ Stroud to win it, but that's not going to happen. First year, that's never happened. That's not going to happen this year. But I do think that you're smart not to root against Patrick Mahomes 2 weeks in a row, Mr. Hot Take from last week. But I also think that I wasn't all that impressed with what I saw. The only thing that's interesting that I didn't quite consider is how the Chiefs have kind of morphed into this power run team. Pacheco is a beast. And
right.
But that's fine. You try to power run against teams in the playoffs, and that's you got to have a different fastball than that. So,
and what's so good about this matchup that makes it different from I said, oh, this is the Brady Manning right of today type thing. What makes it so great today is that they're on even footing.
Yeah,
Kansas City and Buffalo is both cold as hell, and it both snows. You have even footing. Whoever makes it to whoever. They're used to that climate. It's not Miami playing in Kansas City or Buffalo, or you want to take it back. It's like when New England comes to Kansas City when Tom Brady was there, in his last couple of years, it doesn't affect him. He already knows. He already knows what's going to go on. He already knows how it's going to play. He goes, "This is home. I'm cool. I'm not worried about it."
And they both have massive arms, so the fact that it's snowing and raining and windy, you still get to watch football.
Absolutely.
Patrick Mahomes, Tua put the ball up in there and it flew to Nebraska. Patrick Mahomes, when he missed his wide receivers, it fell at their feet. Like arm talent was just the passes were still close. Sky Moore, they activated him. I'm not sure if that moves the needle too much for the Chiefs, but I just think Peyton Manning eventually got his Super Bowl.
For sure.
He eventually climbed the mountain, and I just think that I think the Chiefs are going to retool in a big way this offseason. And if the Bills don't pull it off now, if the Bills knock the Chiefs off and then they go to the AFC Championship game and they lose to the Ravens or if they lose to the Texans, that's terrible. But if they lose to the Ravens or the Ravens go to the Super Bowl, it's still a win for them because they took the next step and got further. And
for sure,
we don't count NFC Championship games and AFC Championships games as. There's only one team in the NFL right now that if they lose in the championship game, it's a failure on their season, and it's the 49ers. They have to overcome it. They've been kicking everybody's ass. They've been the Super Bowl favorite most of the year. They have to make it to the Super Bowl. And
that's what I find the AFC better is just because I like the stories a little bit more than the NFC. I feel like NFC almost everyone's playing out desperation, we need to win, we need it. It's even with the Bucks Lions, I feel like there's some weird type of desperation there. The AFC doesn't feel like that. It feels like, oh, cool, CJ Stroud first time, whatever the Texans do, that's super dope. Good for them. It feels like with because I guess it's with the Bucks, it's you're supposed to suck. And because you don't suck, you're gonna a worse draft pick because of it, bro. You're supposed to be rebuilding or retooling, whatever you want to call it, reloading, and you're not. You're getting a worse draft pick because of it, and you're not supposed to be here at all. Congratulations to Baker. You're going to get paid, bro.
He's going to get 100, I bet. 3 years, 100 million, something like that.
Yeah. But the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Texans, it's just better stories on that side, I believe. You ready to move on?
Yeah.
Deal or no deal. All right, so here's how this is gonna work. So I have a obviously two teams, right? One team is going to receive a player with pretty much all of these, except for outside of one. The other team is going to receive pretty much picks. I do have their remaining contracts on here. If they only have 1 year to their deal, I put a projection on what they were supposed to make in the coming years. I also have available cap space, and if they don't have enough cap space, I put cut candidates on there. So there's a lot of information for us to digest. There's not going to be a whole lot of the, hey, there's cut candidates, they're over the cap. What are you still going to take this? If you say deal, it's a deal for both teams. If you say no
Okay.
deal, you have to tell me why it's a no deal on which side. And would you counter offer with something, or is it just a flat no way, dude? So first one, this one might be seen a little bit. Raiders receive a first round pick. It's pick number 10 for Davante Adams.
Deal.
Straight up first round pick, Davante Adams. So just to let you know, Davante Adams has 3 years left on his deal. He's going to be a cap hit of $25 million this year and $44 million the next 2 years after that. With a potential out after this next year, there's a potential out in 2025 with only a dead cap of $15 million. So there is an out of there if you wanted that for some reason. The Jets only have $6.6 million in cap space, so there is that issue. Three guys that can kind of remedy that a little bit for post June 1st cuts. CJ Mosley will save you $17 million. Laken Tomlinson will save you $13 million, and John Franklin Myers will save you $13.9. That's going to save you the most amount of money. So, all the information. Do you take that deal?
Are we operating under the assumption that if the Raiders make this deal, like they're going to negotiate the cap hits and not take that much dead money? Because if you're trading for Davante, you're not leaving a bunch of his cap hit behind.
Yeah, I would assume that there's going to be some type of consumption at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have traded Davante at the trade deadline personally. I'm not a big believer in trading certain players for picks. Like I don't believe that you trade Max Crosby away just to try to draft Max Crosby. But so when you said Raiders, I was
AJ
in
Brown
this.
for Trey Burks.
Yeah,
Traylon
stupid.
Burks.
Oh, the next
Yeah.
Debo Samuel. How'd that work out for you? Um, I'm not. I was not. I thought you were going to go Max Crosby at first. I'm glad you didn't. Yeah.
Mm,
Devontae, free that man.
mm,
Um, and you're rebuilding anyway. You don't have a quarterback on the roster. That's your future.
yep.
Josh Jacobs is a free agent. Uh, that's a deal. That's honestly, I think that's a great deal. And
Yeah.
actually, kind of makes me a little nervous because I'm not sure I want to see the Jets load up like that with Devontae. And I'm a big Garrett Wilson guy.
Oh
So,
yeah. Big
and
time, bro.
I think Brees Hall is a stud also. So
Big time.
but I will tell you, we haven't talked about this man one time on the podcast. I do not think that Rodgers is coming out and setting the league on fire next year. So we could talk about that in the offseason.
Yeah.
But
Let's save that one
he's
for
slow.
sure.
So
Yeah, for sure. Next one. All right. Deal or no deal. Bears received a 2024 second round draft pick, number 43 overall. And who receives Justin Fields? The Falcons. The Falcons receive Justin Fields, and the Bears receive a 2024 second round pick. Justin Fields has 1 year, $6 million left on his deal. Obviously, that is with the assumption that he's going to be, it's almost going to be like a test year. So I didn't put a potential what he's going to make because he's kind of floating up in the air right now. They do have $26 million in cap space, the Falcons do. So if they do want to sign him to a smaller deal for a couple of years, they do have that option. But once again, Bears receive a 2024 second round draft pick from the Falcons, and the Falcons get Justin Fields on a test year. Let's call it that. Deal or no deal?
I don't hate the trade. I don't hate the compensation. I don't love the thought that Bill Belichick is going to go for trading for Justin Fields. And I think that he's the next head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. So I don't see that as the landing spot. Although sitting here today doesn't seem like that bad of a landing spot for him. But
So this is just a flat no deal, no counter offer. We're not taking this back to the bank, to the dealer. This is a flat just no deal. I don't see this one going down. I don't want this one because of Bill Belichick.
And the Falcons already have a quarterback that can't throw the football. I don't know why they would want to trade for another one.
Oh, but this one can run.
I think there's a lot of places where Justin Fields can put Justin Fields in Miami, baby. Like, there's I think there's a lot of interesting things that can happen with Justin Fields. And I think that you could trade. I think you can trade Justin Fields and some of your picks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you could trade Justin Fields for a pick. And then you can take those picks and another player and get back into the top half of the first round. I don't know. I see a version of Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison on the Bears because they have their own pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that you can take the picks you get for Justin Jefferson and your pick and move back into the top 5, right? And get Marvin Harrison. Yeah. But I don't see it. I don't see it. The Falcons. But I think your compensation is correct.
So I'm so glad you accidentally brought up Justin Jefferson. So Justin Jefferson gets traded to the Arizona Cardinals. The Vikings receive the 4th overall pick, the 2025 first round pick, and a 2024, so this year's 3rd round pick. It is number 71 overall. Obviously, he's on a 1-year deal. It's going to be a 5th-year option, essentially. If you don't want to take the 5th-year option, you're just going to sign him. His projection numbers is 4 years, $117 million. It's going to be an average salary of 29.3 is the estimation. Could be higher than that, obviously. They do have $44 million in cap space, though they do have the cap for that. Again, Justin Jefferson to the Cardinals. So you're taking the surefire thing. You know what you're getting over the potential maybe Marvin Harrison Jr., which means the Vikings get the 4th overall pick, 3rd round pick, and another 1st round pick on top of that. Deal or no deal?
How many times are the Vikings going to trade away their stud wide receiver to draft the next stud wide receiver? They're just going to keep doing it?
Hey, man, if you don't go out to pay him, it might work. Someone might like to be there in Minnesota. It might not be Randy Moss. It might not be Justin Jefferson. It might not be Stephon Diggs, but it might be Marvin Harrison Jr. Who knows?
My gut instinct is that I hate that idea. I hate that trade for what it means for the 49ers in the division, which makes me think that it's probably a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know why you trade the 4th pick for a player that you have to pay anyway, but I'm of the mindset that they should move off Kyler Murray. I don't think it's going to happen because it's a lot of money and they seem like they've gone with him. And if you're going to stay with him, you need to go get him. I know they traded for Hollywood, all this other stuff they got going on. Their tight end is a beast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, their leading receiver last year.
I think trading for Justin Jefferson, because it's like a 95%, 96%, 97% chance that Marvin Harrison is never in the class of Justin Jefferson. So I think you make that trade. Actually, I don't hate that.
And the Vikings get the compensation that is deserved. 2 1st round picks, the 4th overall, and then the potential. Again, this is the Cardinals' 1st round pick of next year too. I think you're seeing a peak of maybe a mid-round 15th overall pick next year. So a mid-round 1st round pick, and you still get a 3rd round pick, which obviously we know how valuable that 3rd round pick. Those top 3-4 rounds in the draft is invaluable type of compensation. So you get 2 picks in the first three rounds, and then another 1st rounder for next year.
And if one of those top 3 teams doesn't take the quarterback, then the Vikings need a quarterback. Like you're not running it back next year with Nick Mullins, I don't think. So, yeah. Although we'll get into the draft more later, I'm not a big believer in who they currently are saying is going to go number 3, but and number 4 is way too high for like a Michael Penix. But
come on, like are we really seeing New England Patriots pick at 3? When's the last time New England's actually kept their pick? Is this going to be it because Bill Belichick's gone, right? Are we going to see a change in culture and what we're doing with the team? Or is this kind of like hey, we're doing the same old thing?
Did you see the Gerard Mayo interview? He basically said they're taking a quarterback.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know
they
he had a press conference today, but I didn't see it.
well, it was a sit down interview, and they basically asked him, "What's your mindset going into that high draft pick, one of the highest draft picks you guys have had at years?" He said, "Listen, I'll let you put the pieces on this together, but we're going to be doing a lot of research and a lot of scouting on the most important position in football."
I'm gonna put it out there right now before we move on. If New England takes who is, dude, I don't even know why he's the third. If the quarterback, if New England takes Jaden Daniels, you could throw it away again and you can go get another quarterback next year because it's gonna be a goddamn waste of time, in my opinion. I don't see anything remotely beneficial or project wise to this man. I could see with some things, you and I can talk a lot about realistically, like not what a player is now, but what he can be. I just don't see it with Jaden Daniels. We'll get into that another time. But if New England takes that quarterback, I think it's a waste.
Yeah, I don't. New England, I think, is in a tough space because that cupboard is bare. That not a ton of talent on the offensive side of ball. I mean, their number one wide receiver was like our fourth overall wide receiver a couple years ago.
Yeah, dude.
The running back's kind of nice, I guess, but the running backs you
Yeah,
can find them in every draft now. So I don't really know what New
absolutely.
England does if they trade away, if they stay there. I think it would make more sense for them to trade away and get a massive haul, but
Hmm.
the 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 value in the second overall pick is 1,000 times higher than the value in the third overall pick because it's a two quarterback
Yeah.
draft class, which is crazy because somebody's going to take Michael Penix or somebody's going to take JJ McCarthy. I don't think so. I'm not a big fan of JJ, but somebody's going to take Michael Penix or somebody's going to take Bo Nix and they're going to have a really good
Yeah.
career. And then whoever gets drafted
Yeah.
at third is
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's kind of the benefit maybe with the Bucks is the Bucks pick later, and then you could have a guy like Bo Nix, and you're just like, hey, what? I'll take him in the late first. I don't really mind. And you can kind of,
Seattle taking Michael Penix, keeping them up there in Washington and
yeah,
where
no, for
they're
sure.
at. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. The Panthers receive a 2024 first round pick, a 2025 third round pick, and an edge rusher in David Ojabo. And the Ravens receive edge rusher Brian Burns. Brian Burns has 1 year left on his deal. I believe it again, 5th year option. He would take up $16 million if that was the case. Projection for his contract is 5 years, $108 million, which would be $21.7 million a year. They do have $18 million in cap space. David Ojabo, who the Panthers get in a return. He has 2 years left on his deal with $2 million in each of those years. He is coming off a significant knee injury, which is his second in just 3 years. When he came into the draft in 2022, he was coming off of the big knee injury and he didn't play in his last year of college and he declared for the draft. He played in his rookie year and then he didn't play this last year because, or he did, he played a little bit, but he's coming off of another knee injury essentially. So he kind of has that naggingness. So once again, Ravens get Brian Burns. The Panthers get a first round pick this year, a third round pick next year, and edge rusher David Ojabo. Deal or no deal?
I think that it's a deal within the mindset that they have to trade Brian Burns. I think
Yeah.
it's no deal from the mindset that put that dude on the market, call every GM, let him know he's available because they haven't signed him. So they're obviously going to trade him because they would have signed him by now. This goes back to
Yeah.
that stupid ass trade they made already where the Bears, right? What's the wide receiver's name?
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore. They wanted DJ Moore or they wanted Brian Burns, and they're like, okay, we'll send you DJ Moore. And then they looks like they got a bust at the number one overall pick this year. They should have just sent him Burns and kept their wide receiver and gave that dude someone to throw to instead of dumping it down to
Yeah.
some guy named Chuba every 3 plays. I just I I think that 1,000% he's traded in the offseason. I just think that you put him on the market and you let the highest bids come in and you go from there. So I don't actually think your compensation is off. I don't even think it's that bad of compensation at all. I just think that once he's up available on the market and people know he's getting moved, it'll come in a little higher.
Yeah. Okay. I'm cool with that. Oh, this is one that might be lingering on your mind a little bit. Texans
Oh,
receive Brandon Ayuk
fuck, man.
and a 7th-round pick, while the Niners receive a 2024 first-round pick from the Browns, a 2024 5th-round pick, and a 2025 4th-round pick. So you have a first and a fifth for this year, a fourth for next year. And again, the Texans receive Brandon Ayuk and a 7th-round pick. Brandon Ayuk is projected to receive a 4-year, $91 million contract at $22.9 million a year. The Texans have $71 million in cap space, so cap really isn't an issue for them. No cuts, no nothing, no concerns. Deal or no deal, and again, this is coming from the Niners fan. This is something that you have brought up personally. What do we do with Brandon Ayuk? Deal or no deal with the Houston Texans?
What's the Browns pick? Like
The Browns,
21?
yeah, I believe it's about 21. It's not, yes, I believe it is.
I wonder if that's too high to go get that kid from Washington. Oduzene, whatever his name is. That dude's a stud.
Um,
I'm not a big believer in trading away a player for a pick to draft the player to replace him. We tried that with Javon Hargrave. We tried that with Javon Kinlaw when we traded away DeForest Buckner, and it didn't work out. But you're running into a money crunch, and I will tell you this, Brandon Ayuk's future. And it's funny because I have a little segment I want to do at the end. I'm going to hijack our podcast a little bit and play host for a second. I have a little segment, Brandon Ayuk's part of it.
Okay.
His future depends on what happens in these playoffs. Because if we have to retool, if we have to rebuild to come back next year and try to win, you can't let important pieces like Eric Armstead and George Kittle and Mooney Ward and some of these other people that we're paying big money to, Javon Hargrave, go. But if we win the Super Bowl this year, if we host the trophy, we have a parade, maybe we phase into the next version of what the 49ers are going to be. And I think there's some salary that we can let go to keep Brandon Ayuk if we win a Super Bowl. So if the 49ers are Lombardi Trophy winners, no deal. If we don't win, deal.
I like that. The Browns pick is the 23rd pick, just for clarity. And I did look up a mock draft. The most recent mock draft from CBS has Rome going, I believe it was 15th. So that's kind of where he's at. And then I have this one. I have this one for PFF having him going 10th to the Jets.
Whoa!
But if the Jets are trading their pick to the Raiders, maybe the Raiders take them instead. But I think you're probably looking at
the Raiders will take some dude that's projected to go in the 4th round.
I think you're looking at probably 10 to 20 is probably where he's projected. So maybe a little bit high. But yeah, I like that. And then I have one more to cap off the podcast and to cap off the deal or no deal. Bengals receive a 2024 2nd-round pick and a 2025 1st-round pick in a tag and trade deal for T. Higgins to the Patriots. T. Higgins is obviously going to be in the understanding that he's going to get a contract. He is projected a 4-year, $74 million contract at $18.6 million a year. So once again, Bengals receive this year's 2nd from the Patriots, next year's 1st from the Patriots, which is pretty damn good if you ask me, especially from the Patriots. And the Patriots receive stud T. Higgins again in a tag and trade deal. Deal or no deal?
It has to be a deal, right? Because you're not gonna re-sign him to keep him. So you have to get something out of him. There's
That's
not
damn good compensation too.
There's not a ton of sign and trades in the NFL. It's not really it's a more of an NBA thing. But I think
for sure
that it's just one of those things where the compensation is there and you want to get something for him, right? Like
absolutely.
And I don't think the Bengals are nowhere near the conversation that the 49ers have where we can make arguments about, do you keep Brandon and move off of Debo? Do you keep Debo and move off of Brandon Ayuk? Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. There's no doubt about it.
100%. Yes. And just for context, I think that when you can have that argument about Debo versus Brandon Ayuk and who do you keep and how do you move money around and whatnot. Brandon Ayuk is the best wide receiver on the team, my opinion. Dude, I saw something crazy. There was a CD. You take CD Lamb or this guy, and Brandon Ayuk got brought up, and someone's like, "Oh, CD Lamb 100% all the way to the which is fine, absolutely. There's only a couple of guys that you take over CD Lamb at this point." And someone else said Brandon Ayuk's not even the best receiver on his team. You're smoking crack, because Brandon Ayuk is 100% one of the best wide receivers in the league. And if you can't see that, bro, you don't watch ball, you don't know stats, and you don't know advanced stats at the end of the day. I don't care about what the stats say. The advanced stats are super important. If you just watch that dude play, bro, he's not open just because of scheming. He's open because he's a goddamn good, one of the best route runners in the league. He belongs in that top 5 conversation for best route runners in the league right now, in my opinion. But you can have that conversation with T. Higgins versus Jamar Chase, because Jamar Chase is, like you said, he's Jamar Chase. He's that dude. T. Higgins is really, really good, and he can go be a 1 for the Patriots really, 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 really easy and be 1 on quite a few teams. But he's not beating out no Jamar Chase. But Brandon Ayuk can beat out Debo.
Brandon Ayuk had 1,300 yards this year, something like that. CD had 1,700.
Yep.
And Brandon Ayuk had 50 less targets.
Yeah.
So you can make the argument. Personally, if I was picking either player for my team, I like CD's physical build a tad bit more than Brandon Ayuk, but
some people forget that CD's like 6'4" or some shit.
He's a big body, but Brandon Ayuk is one of the best blockers in the league at the wide receiver position. Every single time there's a breakaway run for the 49ers, the running back goes running, and you just see the defensive back getting his ass backpedaled. The 49ers have a hard hat in their locker room that every time you get like a 20-yard block or a 10-yard pancake or whatever by the wide receiver, they get to sign it. And Brandon Ayuk's all over that. And he was in the doghouse for Shanahan the first year after his rookie year. And Shanahan came out and said, hey, we had to throw the ball a lot to that dude last year because we had no one else, but he ain't ready. He's not doing what he needs to do. And the thing about this team is Danny Gray, Madden legend, hurt himself in the preseason, and he's been ready to come back since week 7. And we keep elevating Chris Conley and the other dude, I can't even remember his name, off the practice squad because Danny Gray doesn't block. So they don't.
Yeah. Dude, and imagine, I mean, the Niners get that compensation, which is good for the Niners to have a first round pick. You guys have a first round pick this year?
Yeah.
You guys actually have your first round pick finally back?
Isn't that exciting?
Wow, that is really exciting. Dude, since we've gone back and forth with deep scouting, you guys have not had a first round pick. So it's very exciting. I love that. But you guys get another first round pick. So not only do you get your first round pick back finally, but you get another one from the Browns. You get, you get 2 picks in the 20s, or maybe 1 in the 30s.
32.
And probably not. And then you also, on top of that, get a 5th, and then again, next year's 4th as well. So, and dude, Brandon Ayuk on the Texans, it's like, it feels like the Texans have a team that works, right?
But do they need
wants
him?
To work. I don't know if it's about need, right? I mean, who's their weapons, right? So Dalton Schultz is a free agent, and he signed a 1-year deal on a prove-it deal, and it's kind of a wash, right? He put up really similar numbers with the Cowboys and the Houston Texans, so the deal that he gets isn't going to be massive. I think it's going to be top 10, 8, somewhere around there, maybe 6. But it's not going to be a huge, groundbreaking deal where he's going to be the highest paid tight end all of a sudden. Now, if he went out this year and had 1,100 yards or something stupid, yeah, obviously he would have that. But he's not going to have anything crazy. So then you're looking at it from a perspective of Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and then who else, right? Noah Brown, right? Okay, cool. But Brandon Ayuk, I mean, Nico had a great season, but do you want to rely on a guy like Nico Collins to have another one? Is it a product of a one-hit wonder and that's it? That's all you get? Or is this more of a Let's bring in Brandon Ayuk, who's bona fide. We know who he is, and we know what we want. Let's go out and get this. Like, we're clearly ready for a little bit more. Let's go get a little bit more. Let's put Brandon Ayuk as our one, and let's run with Nico and Tank. Right? It frees up those other guys as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I had already kind of thought that the Chiefs might float a first round pick for Brandon Ayuk, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was competition for his services.
And if you want to go look at like what you need, like if you're going to use that first round pick, right? What do you need? Rushing is what you need, right? Your running backs, your leading back is Devin Singletary, right? After a pretty disappointing season from your starter. So your starter is Devin Singletary at this point. Congratulations. Not a lot of teams want that there. But you're not going to use a first round pick on a running back, I don't think. And the other thing that they might have a little bit trouble with is their offensive line, kind of injury riddled and ridden at this point. But you can go out, maybe go sign a top line guy again. They got quite a bit of cap space, man. I mean, $71 million in cap. You don't got to use it on CJ Stroud yet, obviously, right? I mean, you go out and you go bolster up your offensive line a little bit. You go and you trade for Brandon Ayuk, and the defense is kind of middle of the road, but again, you boast it up with a couple of small things here and there, especially in the passing game. If there's not like a corner that's sitting there or a safety sitting there that you want, I mean, you might as well go get a top flight receiver at that point, in my opinion.
Did you lose your camera again?
Yeah, my phone died.
All right, I got one off-topic question for you, and you can spend 30 seconds on it. I actually had a couple that I wanted to discuss, but two of them were T. Higgins versus Brandon Ayuk, and we kind of covered that already. And then I was kind of wondering about franchise tagging Tony Pollard, but I talked myself out of that being a good idea. But completely hijacking this away from the sport we've been talking about, did the Pacers make themselves bona fide NBA Finals contenders with their trade for Pascal Siakam that they just pulled off?
I think that defense needs a lot of work, and I don't think Pascal Siakam does that for them. I don't think Pascal Siakam's defense is good enough to all of a sudden give them, like, it's not like sticking Rudy Gobert there, right? Rudy Gobert automatically makes your team's defense 100 times better. The team's offense is obviously incredibly good, super high powered, and it's hard to stop. But that defense is just not good. And Pascal Siakam gives a little bit more to Tyrese Halliburton, and I'm sure he really appreciates that. And the Pacers have done more for Tyrese Halliburton than the Hawks have done for Trae Young already. And it's pretty sad. You know, I think it's a good trade, but I don't think it makes them NBA Finals because you got to have some solid bro. Pascal Siakam is not stopping a guy like Joel Embiid. Right? That big man is not doing anything. I mean, he's not even stopping Kristaps Porzingis, bro. Like, he's good and it's a good trade, and they fill in a hole that they need, but it's not it. It's not enough to make them quite there yet. I like the trade, but it's not enough quite yet to push them into that finals or even semifinals, right? The conference. I don't think he even pushes them in there quite yet.
And I'm not a big believer in trading that much compensation for.
That was a lot, bro. That was a lot.
A rental.
Yeah.
You know, they might have a chance to re-sign him. I actually want. I go back and forth with my family on and friends on Sabonis and the money we paid him and his value, but
right.
I want the Kings to call up the Nets and take their their next 3 first-round picks they have, along with maybe Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes, and go get Mikal Bridges, because I feel like De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, Keegan Murray, Mikal Bridges, I think that catapults us into. I don't think there's anything the Kings can do to get up on the level with the Nuggets, but
yeah,
the Kings' need to take the next step into competing has been fast forwarded this year because OKC and the Minnesota Timberwolves have arrived. So now that they're bursting onto the scene, we have to make a move because we keep winning all these games and we lose by 20. Like every
Yeah.
single loss we've had this season, we've just got smashed. And I don't know. You want to stay relevant or do you want to be irrelevant? Because Sacramento only has currently today, although that may be changing next year. I don't know if you've heard the rumors or not, but they currently only have one sports franchise, so they need to do what can do to stay relevant.
Why do you say currently? What's the rumor? What am I missing?
The A's are going to be playing at Sutter, where the River Cats play. It's
No
they,
shit.
yeah, for a season or two or three or four until the Las Vegas. It hasn't been announced yet, but A's ownership was in town today looking at the stadium and a couple other things, and they can't stay in
Uh-huh.
the Coliseum because Oakland has told them to go fuck themselves, and it's just impossible to do it in the Giants baseball stadium because the baseball there's just too much conflicting stuff. So they were in town today. Here, I'm probably going to go to 20 or 30 of them because I'm going to go see Otani in person if I can. I'm going to go see Aaron Judge in person if I can. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Hey man, I'm not into baseball really, but there's that golden time for baseball between when the NBA finals and off-season kind of like dies down for the NFL, and you're in that right before training camp starts up, and there's nothing really super duper duper exciting to talk about in training camp. For the podcast, it might be a sweet spot to kind of maybe dive in head first on that, on the baseball stuff.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna. I mean, luckily you and me are both draft junkies, so we'll you know,
Oh, we'll be busy till April at least.
I'm pretty.
Dude. I'm really stoked. I'm already been doing the math on when and how and what we're gonna do and how to line it all up on what to do the here, and here, and what prospects, top tens on these prospects, and I've been counting it out.
The only thing that could have made last week better for me, because trust me, it was outside of the fact that one of the things I said last week on the podcast was I didn't want either of our teams to suffer a catastrophic loss because I didn't want the
Mm-hmm.
podcast to be kind of like a disappointment. The only thing that could have made it better for me last week if it had been Christian Watson going for that 150 yards instead of Romeo
Oh god.
Dobbs, because we had the the Aiden versus Kayvon stuff. I love Christian Watson. And
Me not so much.
there's going to be some fun debates, and there's a lot of. I think we're both going to agree on Caleb at number one, right? But tell me why
Yeah.
you think. I kept arguing. I remember I kept arguing with you last year because I thought the tackle, the offensive guard for the Titans. Say his last name, Peter. We'll just call him Peter.
Skoronsky.
Yeah, you're like, he's a guard. I'm like, no, he's a tackle. You're like, no, he's a guard. I'm like, no, he's a tackle. And we were just like arguing back and forth. So I mean, obviously, it remains to be seen where the next couple of years lead him. But it'll just be fun to have some of this stuff on video and audio because we're not afraid to disagree with each other when it comes to certain things. So
No, and I think that's what makes it kind of fun is is obviously that. But like even when we agree on something, like we agreed, like Peter Skoronsky is a good prospect, right? Like almost surefire, super solid. Like if you're gonna make an all pro rookie team, Peter Skoronsky is gonna make it, and he's gonna make it as a guard, by the way. And even when we agree that a guy is good, we can still disagree. Be like, well, I think his best position, especially with offensive line or even defensive line, be like, well, I think he's more of a stand up, like 3-4 guys. Like, well, no, I think he's more like. I think you and I kind of went not back and forth, but we had a conversation. Like Will Anderson, you could argue is he more of a stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker, or is it hand in the dirt? Defensive end is still in a 3-4. Is he a 4-3 type guy? Like what type of guy is he? We agreed he's a good prospect, but what type of prospect is he going to be? What type of player is he going to be in the NFL exactly? So I think that's what makes the draft stuff super exciting. I've only gotten a couple quarterbacks done so far, but
also because you watch a ton of tape and I watch a ton of college football. So it's like all this season, I'm like, Dallas Turner, edge rusher for Alabama. I'm like, this dude's a beast. He's a bona fide beast. He's and then I'm looking at mock drafts and he's going like 16th. he's the first edge rusher off the board. But I'm like, no, edge rusher's not going 16th. The number one edge rusher, he's gonna be a top 7 pick. But then I'm looking at these mock drafts and I'm like, the Patriots are going to take this dude at quarterback instead of a bona fide edge rusher. How does that make sense to anybody? So
Right?
it'll be fun to see how it shakes out. And once the one thing I like is you'll send me over some stuff, and I'm like, like I told you, I didn't watch a ton of Drake May this year because he
Yeah.
wasn't on TV. I saw more of Shador Sanders than I saw of Drake May this year. So digging in those prospects is a little bit, just you have this belief watching these guys play against teams and just seeing, like you've said before, you're watching tape, looking at a certain player, and then another dude keeps jumping off the tape at you. So,
Oh, for sure.
I'm super
It's gonna be fun.
excited. Super excited for the